Good morning, everyone. This is Lee Perry. I am the Pirate Therapist. I am your local source for all piratey mental health therapy information. With me today, we have a guest. His name is Landon Weeks. He is a social media guru, expert. What would you call yourself?
I don't know if I'd call myself a social media guru, but I do use social media on a regular basis, base a lot of my interactions with people and businesses online.
Okay. So, you want to tell us a little bit about yourself, introduce yourself to the viewers that we have?
So I am a video and digital media specialist. I have my background in film and media arts and kind of worked around the state, uh, doing a lot of digital content from video, photo, a bunch of things. And apart from work, I have a beautiful family and uh, two beautiful girls and enjoy just doing a lot of theater and performing arts as well, music, anything to do with the art forms.
That's awesome. That's fantastic. I'm pretty sure people have picked up on the fact that I too like the performing arts and all the stuff and all the things that go along with that. They've probably been able to discern that just because most of my guests tend to fall into that category, people I know from the theater and that world.
Mhm.
But anyway, welcome to the show. Today, we were going to talk a little bit about social media and its effect on mental health. I'm just going to kind of ask some questions. Feel free to jump in and expound if you have something you would like to add, or if you have an example or personal story you'd be willing to share. That would be fantastic. So I think most of us have, but have you ever found yourself kind of locked into your phone? You go to check your phone, and then next thing you know, a whole lot of time has passed and you're still staring at your phone.
Yeah, definitely all the time. It seems like way too much of my day and can be a good and bad thing. Good to just kind of keep up with, you know, world current events, people around you, but also you do get in that trap of just kind of sometimes forgetting
Doom scrolling.
responsibilities. Yeah, doom scrolling, all that type of stuff.
Yeah. Well, I don't think you're alone by any stretch. I think most of us kind of fall into that category of where we go for a quick check on something on our phone, and then we just kind of lose track of time, and next thing you know, we're doom scrolling and we've lost an hour of our lives.
Hmm.
It's the thing about social media, I think, is it's kind of like a weapon. It's neither good nor bad. It's a tool. It has good components, it has bad components. It can be useful and it can be harmful. It just depends on how we use it. What would you say some of the positive aspects that we get out of social media are?
I think some of the positive aspects is just kind of information that can be shared that could be good or bad, double edged sword, but easy access to information, keeping up with friends and family that you wouldn't be able to otherwise if you're not in the same area, state. Yeah. Some other good aspects that I use it for too is kind of promotion, uh, awareness of brands and or shows or anything that I'm a part of. That's a good way to reach a lot of people uh, for kind of a work marketing purpose on my end, especially in the theater world. Whenever we're on a show, we're always posting pictures and really promoting what we're a part of, so that people can come and enjoy the arts. And it's just an easier way for people to just hurry, get on their phone, look and see what's happening in the world.
Okay. You said connection, right?
Hmm.
Connection is it's a way for us to stay connected to family and friends. I mean, I know I can communicate with people that I haven't seen in years via social media. That's been a main reason why I engaged in the social media in the first place. I come for the connection, I stay for the doom scrolling, I guess.
Hmm.
Another thing about social media, and I don't know if I heard you mention this or not, would be like you can join groups, be a part of a group, whether it's a support group or just a group of people with like interest. And that can bring some positive support in your hobbies, interests, your mental health. You can learn more about topics like parenting or random hobbies. It can be very good for finding a community and helping you validate the way you feel, reduces loneliness, sort of.
Sort of. Yes, that
Um,
is a a
it
loose
re-
term.
It reduces loneliness in the fact that you can talk to people. However, it does not meet that social need that we have to be with people face to face. When we are with someone in the same room, there's an energy that goes back and forth. And I don't want to sound like some kind of metaphysical hippie, but there is something that we get when we're in the presence of other people that we do not get over video. Or I mean, even right now, you and I, we're not in the same location, and that energy that we get when you and I are in the same room is not the same.
Very true. Yeah, I do also notice just kind of the duality that sometimes people have when you're scrolling on social media and it just looks like they have the best life and they have that online persona. Even when I'm uploading, I always find myself, like trying to find the best angle or like trying to find the most interesting thing that I can share with people. And then when you actually have the one on one interactions, it's completely different. It's not completely different, but it like you said, it has that different energy, and you actually get to know the person for who they are when you're actually in the same room. I totally
Yeah.
get that.
I think to some degree there's some kind of performance
Mhm.
when you're online. I don't know if that's us. I'm just spitballing here. I'm processing out loud what I'm thinking about this right now. So it's not like I've put a lot of thought into this. But I think when we're online and we're talking to people online, especially if it's people we don't know, we have a tendency to want to put our best foot forward. We want to curate what we allow people to see. We don't necessarily want them to see that, oh, hey, my lawn needs to be mowed. I'm a hot mess. I haven't done dishes in 2 days. We don't want people to know these things. So we just want to push forward and curate what people can see and just give them the positives. And when we're in person, I don't know that it's that easy to do.
Yeah, I
think
I agree.
I think we get a better read on people person to person as opposed to over video.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Like, I'm also just gonna put myself out there and even look around my current setting right now as I've, set up my light and set up my microphone, but yet my space around me has been curated for this exact moment where if the camera panned to the side, it's a little bit of a mess. It's a little that's something that people don't see. So yeah, it's just always a kind of a scary thing when you are scrolling online and like looking at people's lives. It's like, are they really showing all their true authentic self, or there's probably always something off to the side. And that's not bad. It definitely isn't. But when people just rely too much on that side of things, I think that's where it can become problematic, because when they don't develop the social skill to just really accept all of it, they just want to accept and maybe even mimic trying to put an online mask in their personal interactions too. I don't know if that makes sense.
It does. It does. I've always taught that we have two faces. Everybody has two faces. And I don't mean that in saying that we're two-faced and unreliable or dishonest. I
Hmm.
mean, we have two faces as in we have a public face and a private face. And in terms if we use the Wizard of Oz, which is the one I like to use when talking about the two faces. Our public face would be the great and powerful Oz. Our private face would be the man behind the curtain. They are both real, but the great and powerful Oz is only the positives, only the good. Whereas the man behind the curtain is just a man. He's fallible. He's just a guy. But he's not exactly lying in the great and powerful Oz, other than his physical representation, if you will. The floating head is not real. But everything he says and does is just curated to give people what they're looking for, to seem powerful, to seem strong and in control. And that's what we all want when we're in public. We don't go to work and say, here, look what a hot mess I am. We don't go to some social outing and say, yeah, my dating life is awful. I'm a terrible, awful person, can't get along with anybody, and can't maintain any kind of relationship. We just don't do that because nobody wants to hear that. And if we do, if you run into somebody like that, then we tend to kind of go back away slowly,
Hmm.
because it's overwhelming for people. That social aspect on the giving end is we have that curated positive side that we want to give people. And on the other side of that, on the receiving side of that, of somebody giving you that curated, I think on some level we all understand that it's curated. So we don't expect complete upfront honesty about everything because frankly, most of us don't. We're not that interested in your private life. Usually we have our own stuff going on and we're trying to get onto that. We don't want to stop and hear about everything that's wrong in your life. And that sounds terrible. And I don't mean that to sound terrible. We're all busy and we have things we're trying to look for and get to. It doesn't mean we don't care. It means that we're busy and maybe we don't have time right now to listen to it. And when we're in that public interaction, it's more surface, it's more curated, and that's what the expectation is. When we're giving, we give the positives. When we're receiving, we accept that that's curated and we don't really want them to go deeper usually.
Mhm.
And then when you get home, you get the man behind the curtain where we stop that curated version of ourselves and we quit sucking in the gut and we just kind of we exhale and just let things flow. Sometimes we're a little grouchy, sometimes we're not trying to force the positivity, and it's not neither one is fake, they're both real, it's just different priorities, I guess.
Mhm.
In public we want to put our best foot forward, we want to present the best. In private, we want to exhale and not have to have that great and powerful Oz mask on.
Mhm.
And I think when it comes to social media, I think part of the problem that people have is they want to do the great and powerful Oz all the time, but they want to be seen as this is my true, authentic, genuine self. Well, it's a piece of perhaps of your true and authentic, genuine self, but it is certainly not the entire thing. And that kind of leads us into some of the negative sides of the social media in mental health. Have you heard of the comparison trap?
I don't know if I've heard it, like, the specific term, but I can kinda deduce what it is,
Okay,
where it's
well,
just you're just kinda comparing your life to other people, so you're seeing that they're like, "Oh, I went to this awesome concert. I went on this cruise, like, my kids are having so much fun like, I'm a great parent, I'm doing so many activities with my kids," and then you're looking at yourself and being like, "Why am I not always doing that? I'm not always engaged like they are, that they seem to be." So it's like and
right.
then that kinda spirals into, well, am I not doing enough? Am I good enough? Might need to do more, push more, I don't know.
That is exactly correct. That is what a comparison trap is. It is exactly that. It is defeating. It increases self doubt and it increases our low self esteem because people put that positive foot forward. Then we look at that and we go, look at their life. Their life is fantastic. It's amazing. They've got it all together. They have all the answers. Well, spoiler, none of us have all the answers. None of us are doing as well as we like to pretend we're doing on social media, and it's okay. Everybody struggles. It's not something that we need to it's not a perfect or not perfect. Where none of us are perfect and we all struggle. And yes, we like to put our positives out there because we like to have the feedback when somebody says, wow, you did do parenting right. You did do well. You did accomplish this thing. We like that positive feedback because that makes us feel good. And I think that's mostly why people post those things on social media is they want that pat on the back saying you had an accomplishment, you did something well. The other side of that coin would be that comparison trap where people see you did this thing well. Well, my life sucks because I didn't do this thing.
Mhm.
And we need to be careful not to fall into that trap because it really is kind of destructive to our own sense of self. Another downside to social media would be the addictive design, the doom scrolling.
Mhm.
It's all geared like look at TikTok. TikTok is short little videos and it's all designed to get you to scroll
Mhm.
because it will just repeat short video repeating until you scroll or turn it off. And so it just kind of trains you to keep scrolling and you keep going and you keep going. And I don't know why people don't turn it off more than they do, but I've known TikTok in particular has sucked a lot of people into that doom scrolling. Facebook tries to compete and tries to get people to get into that too. And I'm sure they do.
Mhm.
TikTok I hear about more than Facebook,
And
but
and I think more Instagram as well. Instagram Reels are a big proponent. YouTube Shorts sometimes can get people to stay on. Yeah, it seems like all the major platforms are trying to find their own
that
little niche.
That's what I mean by the addictive design. They're trying to train us to just keep scrolling because the more we engage, the more we respond to ads, the more stuff we buy, the more we engage with them, the more their sponsors pay them.
Mhm.
And it's about money. It's not about connecting people at that point. It's about marketing. Another negative side to the social media is the loss of sleep. How many people lay awake at night and go, I can't sleep, so I'll just scroll on TikTok for a minute. I'll
Mhm.
just do that for a minute, and then it's like, well, where'd the last 2 hours go? As you're laying in bed, not doing anything, your brain's in a zombie vegetative state. You're just doom scrolling. And I'm guilty of this. I have done it where I get on my phone and I just scroll. And I don't even know what I'm seeing because I'm more
Yep.
asleep than awake, but not asleep enough to rest. And
Mhm.
I just keep it's like the finger is just scroll, 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 scroll. And then at some point I'm like, what am I even doing? Because I'm scrolling even if I'm looking somewhere else and not even paying attention to what's on my phone. I'm like, I'm starting to feel like I've been trained like a I don't know, juggling seal or something. I've been trained to do what they want me to do, and I just keep scrolling,
Mhm.
and that's bad. For the record, what I would recommend you do if you can't sleep is not to get on your phone. Sometimes it helps to get up, go get a drink, go use the bathroom, just get up, move around, kind of get yourself out of that I'm laying in bed awake state. So if you can kind of change your mindset and get your mind back to, okay, I'm going back to bed. Sometimes that helps you shut down and go back to sleep. And one trick I have, because I've struggled with sleep a lot in my life, is I'll like get an audiobook. I don't want the visual. I don't want the video because the video, if you look at the video, you know what a pixel is, right?
Mhm.
How many pixels do you have in a screen? Lots,
Yeah.
right? Thousands. Okay. They're all tiny little flashing lights, but we see them all next to each other and put together. And so what we see is a single moving fluid picture. But what it is it's thousands and thousands of flashing little lights that our brain interprets into a solid moving picture. And what that does is it activates the brain. It makes it harder to shut down and go to sleep.
So, I guess I have one question along those lines
Okay.
because there's that mentality of just like, "Oh, I'm not tired enough. I'm just gonna scroll," or people say, "I'm gonna read a book to, like, help me fall asleep or watch a movie or listen to something." Like, what is the difference between, like, looking at, let's say, TikTok or video as opposed to, like, having a book helping you sleep or having an audiobook helping you calm down, or are they all the same?
No, they are not the same. First of all, the video does exactly what I was saying about the
Mhm.
pixels and the flashing lights, and it activates a part of your brain that doesn't want to let you shut down and go to sleep.
Right.
Now, as far as a book, I didn't explain very well, but like when I would use a book to help me go to sleep, I would get a very long book that is not incredibly interesting. I have Dostoevsky's War and Peace, and I tried to find the most dull narrator I could find. That book is like 64 and some hours long, I believe. So I can just hit play and it'll go until I fall asleep. And when I fall asleep, because I'm not really interested in it, it doesn't matter to me if I fall asleep. So I'm not fighting to stay awake. If it's a book that is interesting and it engages my mind, that is going to be counterproductive and it's going to make it harder for me to fall asleep. What the audiobook does when your mind is racing and you're thinking about 100 different things and you can't shut down and go to sleep, I put on the audiobook. I will turn down the volume really low to the point where I have to kind of strain to hear it. And when that happens, all of a sudden now I'm focused on one thing instead of thinking about 100 things. And it's a lot easier to shut down one thing and fall asleep than it is to shut down 100 things. If I tell you to think of nothing, your brain will generally start thinking of a bunch of things. Okay, well, what things do I need to stop thinking about? What's going on? What am I thinking? And you kind of expand and it becomes bigger. But if I say, I want you to focus on this one thing, your mind goes and you can eat more easily just shut down all the outside thoughts and go to this one thing. But if I tell you to think of nothing, if I tell you to empty your head, like as not, you might have more things going in your head after I say that than you had before I said that. So audiobooks I think are great. Personally, I know a lot of people that read a book, like a physical book, and I can't really naysay that, but you kind of have to have a light on to do that. If you're
Right.
using your phone to read, that's a screen. Now we're back to the pixel issue. If you have a lamp on or something like that, that's light, which doesn't tell our mind it's time to go to sleep. It tells our mind it's still time to work.
Mhm.
And I know people have success with that. So I'm not saying that it won't work. It's by far better than TV. But in my mind, I'm going, but you have a light on. So that doesn't tell your mind it's time to go to sleep. That tells your mind it's time to work.
Okay.
So I don't know, but people say it works.
Hmm. Yeah. So, I guess I'm hearing that, like, I mean, keeping your eyes open definitely is not going to help you sleep, first of all. And then the pixels, there's a lot of information going on rather than, like you're saying, an audiobook is just one source to calm
Mhm.
down, where watching a screen is like millions of pixels, thousands of pixels trying to compete with all the senses and stuff. So, okay, I can see that.
Okay. What are some other negatives that you can see about mental health and social media?
I think kind of going along the lines of what we were talking about earlier with, trying to distinguish the whole or what's like being presented and what's real is kind of the impact it has on kids. Because, like, I was around before the internet, I was around before social media. So I've had a lot more interaction with people one on one. I'm around the neighborhood, even though it wasn't like on a world scale like we do on social media, but we were able to get that kind of ground base of just seeing what life is. But I'm noticing, like, with me as a father to two girls, them growing up in this culture, there's that fear that it's just they're going to get stuck behind an iPad. They're going to get stuck behind TikTok, and that's the only thing they're going to know is that everything is always go, go, go. Everything's positive. And I feel like the burnout could be super fast at a very young age where the development wouldn't be there. So I guess, first of all, is that true on your standpoint? And what are some things that parents can do with kids in development in this age?
Well, here is a very unpopular opinion that makes kids everywhere dislike me, and it makes parents frustrated with me because they have to enforce it. But I tell anybody who comes into my office, I tell them they need to limit their kids' screen time. And to do that without looking like a hypocrite, you kind of have to limit your own screen time too. But with kids in particular, the more screen time they get, the more behavioral issues we see. One of the first questions I ask, if not the first question I ask, when someone brings their child into my office and they're like, their behavior is just out of control. They're ornery, they're always arguing, they're always fighting, they're just out of control. My probably first question is how much screen time do they have every day? It's not just video games. It's also TV, YouTube, TikTok. How much time are they spending with their face in a screen? Because that has a significant impact on their behavior. When they get too much, the behavior worsens. But across the board, when you limit their screen time, then their behavior improves. They become more pleasant to be around. They become less aggressive, less angry, and they become that kid that you loved at one point that you kind of lost along the way while they got stuck into playing 10 hours of Fortnite every day and whatever.
Mhm.
It's I see it in every case where it's actually followed through, where parents put those limitations on the screen time. I see them come back and they're like, "I don't understand. It's magic. I love this kid. This is the kid that I love." And they don't understand that there is a correlation between screen time and negative behavior. The part that really makes me unpopular with a lot of parents and a lot of kids is my recommendation generally is on a school night, no more than an hour of free screen time. That doesn't mean schoolwork. That means free screen time where they can do whatever they want, whether that's playing video games or watching videos on YouTube or what'd you say, Instagram shorts or
Yeah.
something. But whatever, the electronics. If they want an hour of screen time, no more than an hour of free screen time on a school night. And on weekends or holidays, no more than two in a day.
Yeah, and then I guess another question being like, why do you think the screen time like is correlated with negative behavior? Like what negative behavior are you talking about? Just like inability to listen, irritability, impatience, like what kind of things?
Absolutely, those things. They're aggressive, argumentative, they're fighting you, they're not doing chores, they're not wanting to interact with their friends except on the video games or some kind of online platform. They want to just kind of lock in. It's addiction behavior. And it's the same thing with drugs and alcohol. When you have an addict and they're fully engaged in that addiction, they can become aggressive and they can become irritable. And then when you try and take them away from that, that gets bigger. But after they've been away from it for a little bit, then they become more pleasant as they start to sober from that addiction. It's the exact same kind of behaviors you see, whether it's drugs, alcohol, or screen time.
Mm. And
The
another thing
behaviors
I
are
was
very much the same. Sorry.
Yeah, and another thing I was thinking about too while you were saying that is just kind of, is it something that they're in control of? And then is it kind of a loss of control that when someone's saying you can't do that anymore, would that play a factor into it? I don't know what I'm
I'm not
trying to
sure I
say.
understand the question.
Just kind of like when a parent goes to a kid that's just like, okay, is you need to stop with the screen time when they've been letting them do that
Mhm.
for a long time and then they're trying to break a cycle. Is that like a
Is there pushback?
like the pushback is related to the kid or child, like, losing control, and then that's what's causing the pushback? I don't know if that makes
It's
sense.
that addiction behavior.
Right.
You tell them they can't have their drug, they're going to get upset. They're gonna push back because they don't want to be taken away from their addiction.
Mm,
And I'm not saying every kid is aggressive and every kid is addicted to electronics, but when the behaviors are aggressive, they're irritable, they're angry all the time, they're short-tempered, they're not getting enough sleep because they're up all night playing video games. They're not getting their schoolwork done because of video games, stuff like that. And then when you take them away, they will scream and yell and holler. When it gets to the point that it is like addiction behavior, things will always get bigger because they don't want you to take them out of that addiction.
mhm,
But as they are not allowed to do that, and they're not able to feed that addiction regularly because you're limiting their exposure to that screen time, you find them getting more irritable. I have seen this in my own life. I have seen the people around me do better when we limit the screen time, and I see it in kids that come into my office where parents are willing to follow through on those restrictions and say, no, you can't have more than this much screen time in a day. When they do that, there's always an improvement in the behavior and attitude of those kids. The problem is a lot of times the reason that the parents don't like me suggesting this is because now they have to parent.
mhm,
And that means they have to actually get off their own video game and go interact with their kid. And that is true surprisingly often. They don't want to disengage from their own addiction
mhm.
to actually interact and parent their child, and so it becomes a bigger issue.
Yeah, I definitely also can see the addictive behavior across all ages
Yes. It's
rather
not
than
just a
children.
child thing, it's just I generally see it happen more quickly in kids, and adults tend to maybe it's the autonomy they have, but they tend to have a little better control on that irritability. I still think that they're irritable, but
Mhm.
they don't lash out as loud or as quickly because they know they have to interact as an adult sometimes. And so they kind of try and moderate that. Whereas kids don't generally have as much restraint and they're willing to just lash out and let it out.
Yeah, makes sense. Also, do you see like a correlation between like the dopamine hits that social media induces to school performance? Like, do you think like, kids are getting instant gratification, they're always seeing something new, something's always engaging. How do you think that affects education and like their schooling where a class lecture may be super long? Do you think that like it's kind of, lack of a better term, kinda degrading their attention span to make it harder for
Absolutely.
educators?
Um, I think schools have kind of done themselves a disservice because right now, at least in the schools around here, what I hear a lot of is the schools are requiring them to have their Chromebooks. Some of them want them to have their phones so they can, rather than go to the library and look it up like I had to as a kid, they have the library at their fingertips. But the problem is when you require a kid to have their phone in class, myself as the child, am I going to want to go look up stuff for the assignment or am I going to want to go doom scroll Instagram? And so I think it's absolutely going to pull focus away from the classrooms because you're giving them a tool that I probably would abuse myself when I was a kid if I had that.
Mhm.
I think you're putting too much temptation in the hands of kids by allowing them this access. And things like Facebook or TikTok are geared to pull their attention in. They've got their algorithms to give you what you want to see, and they'll just give you more and more and more and more, so you'll keep engaging. Teachers tell you what they want you to learn, and they want you to engage in it, but they're not tailoring what they're teaching to what is going to suck you in. And so when it comes to TikTok or teacher, I think TikTok, if the kid is allowed to, is going to win more often because the kid is going to find it more entertaining.
And
And kids
definitely
want to be
easier.
entertained.
Yeah, easier entertainment, like, it's an instant gratification,
Mhm.
where the teacher's requiring effort on the like, "If you learn this, it'll be good," but, like, yeah, I can definitely see how the social media videos are just like, "Oh, this is really happy right now," and you get to just sit in your chair and watch and be entertained.
And
I
I think
totally get that.
that's something that I don't think we mentioned, and I would put that under the negative category, is it creates this expectation of entertainment
Mm,
because it's geared to keeping your interest and constantly feeding you and giving you that dopamine hit. Kids are they're learning to want that I need to be entertained. They want that or they have that mentality where it's like, I don't care what's going on. If it's not entertaining, I don't want to do it, which is also going to make the teacher lose when the kid is in class with a phone in their hand.
mhm. Yeah, and I think going along with that, I don't mean to say, like, entertainment's bad, like, social media is bad, watching it's great to just be able to relax and do all that, but I think it's also kind of hopefully not a dying art of just teaching kids, human beings, that, like, the bigger happiness picture is from you chasing a passion, going through and learning things, and so kinda just rests on the adults to just kind of remember that and kind of help be like, hey, it's really fun to be entertained. Maybe we can be entertained together. We can talk about what we did and then we can go play basketball outside or something like that. We can go swimming. Let's go do an activity. So I guess everything in moderation is kind of how I've looked at it. Like doom scrolling, yeah, I do that. That's okay. At least I feel like it's okay. And then, but then having another activity like going to do theater where it's not like instant gratification where we have rehearsals for hours and hours on end, but having that sense of community, engaging with other people and having other passions to work towards, it feels like it's been more fulfilling in the long run where it's nice to have the short term just to feel okay, feel good, like it's fine, but then like long-term gratification I feel like comes from other sources.
I had a young man and his father in my office the other day, and we were talking about what gives us joy in life. The things that give us joy in life are it's progress, it's accomplishment, it's achievement. And the young man's add to that comment was, yeah, like on this game when I do something that's really hard. And I'm like, well, it's not quite the same. A video game achievement is not the same as doing a real life achievement. And the kid really wanted to argue, but I thought his dad brought up a really good example. He says, all right, in your game, you've been trying for a long time to learn how to fly a plane and do that. And when you get that accomplishment, yes, that's an accomplishment, and that's not bad. That's a good thing. But how much more satisfying would it be if you learned how to fly a real airplane and not just a video game airplane? How much better would that feel? Because that has real life rewards to it that a video game achievement gives you a momentary dopamine hit, perhaps, but it doesn't give you anything you can use in your life. You just did this video achievement or video game achievement on this game, and you may have worked hard for it. And I'm not saying that that's a bad thing. What I am saying is that does not equate to a real life achievement because it doesn't bring you that joy and satisfaction to the same degree that it does in real life.
Interesting. That does kind of make me think a little bit when it comes to achievement and all that, where I may be kind of on the disagreeing
Okay.
end of because I kind of do sympathize with the kid and just like I find it kind of hard to equate achievements in that way of, like it was really hard to fly a plane, but also developing the coordination skills to accomplish that video game feat. I don't know. It just kind of seems the
Again,
same in my opinion.
I'm not trying to say that it wasn't something he had to work for.
Right.
I'm saying a month after he achieves that learning how to fly a plane in the video game, it's not going to mean much to him. Whereas if he got his real pilot's license and he could really fly a plane, that could go on for the rest of his life. The sense of achievement is much greater, at least in my mind. Again, I'm
Yeah.
not trying to say that it's a bad thing for
Right.
him to do that. He is working at it. It is a skill he is working on, he is building, he
Mhm.
is doing. I just don't believe it's going to carry with it the same weight that a real life accomplishment outside the video game is going to carry.
Hmm. Okay.
And you're always totally fine to disagree with me.
Mhm.
I am not
Yeah.
opposed to that. I know I'm not always right.
No,
I
you're
know
good.
that not everybody's going to agree with me, and I actually enjoy that. I encourage that. We need more diversity of thought and discussion.
Mhm.
I'm not going to be the guy that says you have to think the way I think. That denies perspective.
I'm definitely the same way, and kinda miss that in the world today too. Just like, well, some people might disagree. That's okay. We can still talk.
And that's
Yeah.
just it. I'm not attacking you if I disagree with you,
Oh,
or at
no.
least I would hope not.
I never felt that way.
It's simply a matter of, "Oh, we disagree. Cool. Let's have a discussion. Let's understand each other's perspective." We need
Mhm.
more of that.
Oh, yeah.
And
Absolutely.
my wife brought up a point going back to social media. I was complaining once about how much political just angst there was on social media. Just everybody screaming and yelling on one side of the aisle or the other. And it's just everybody's going at it. And my wife made an interesting point to me that I really kind of liked a lot. And she says, "Have you ever seen anybody change their mind based on Facebook arguments, based on social media? Someone telling them they're wrong on social media. Has anybody ever changed their mind?" I'm like, that's interesting because people don't go on social media and shout their opinions with the idea that I'm going to be open to discussion, at least not typically. What they do is they're like, "I'm right, you're wrong. You need to think like I do."
Mhm.
And so therefore everybody gets on and everybody shouts and everybody's mad at the other side because they won't just agree with them because clearly they're right. And we're lacking that discussion. We're lacking that let's understand each other's perspective. And I don't know if it was last week or the week before I did an episode on perspective and how we all need to be pursuing more perspective rather than because we're all only given one small piece of perspective. We never have all the details. And so the only way to get more perspective is to talk to other people and understand what they're thinking and what they see because they're not standing in the same spot we are. They
Mhm.
see things differently. So if I talk to you and we disagree, if we can understand each other's difference in perspective, we both now have a better perspective because we can understand better what each other sees, getting more information of the thing as a whole. And as it stands, even then, the two of us, even if we understood each other's perspective completely, it would still not have all the details.
Mhm.
Because I don't know that we'll ever get all the details in any given situation. But the more perspective we get, the better our understanding of whatever the subject is. And in social media, we tend to get a lot of people just shouting their opinions. They don't want to hear any difference of opinion. They don't want to hear a discussion. They just want to shout their opinion. Again, my wife, she's very smart. She also told me once, she's like, well, people on social media, they don't want, even when they ask for your opinion, they don't want your opinion. They
Yeah,
want
no.
their opinion coming out of your mouth.
Mhm.
And I like the way she put that. I'm like, yeah, that seems to fit very well for a lot of what I see on social media.
Well, and another thing we kinda talked about too is just getting the validity from multiple sources. So when you are shouting that opinion, I think it's a lot easier to get thousands of people behind you.
Mm.
Like a lot of, "You're right, you're right, you're totally right, you're right." You're hearing it from thousands of people, thousands of comments, where if you had a one-on-one discussion that you could work with somebody and looking around you of what's going on, you can talk to each other and not have that would be like in real life, you going to a stadium and bringing one other person on the opposing side. The stands all have your same opinion, and then when that one it makes it really hard for that one person to have a discussion when 1,000 people behind you are going to say, "You're wrong," kind of thing. So I think social media kind of has that effect where you can't really state your opinion because there's not necessarily backup, but for both sides, there's not an open discussion. It's just like you've
You're
got a
right or you're
mess.
wrong. There isn't
Yeah,
discussion, and there
right,
needs to be.
right. Because it would be very intimidating to go on a post of someone shouting and millions of comments and then writing the one comment. You're going to get a slew of of other comments from everybody else saying you're wrong. So why even have the discussion?
Well, and it doesn't really, I don't think, because people don't go in there into that discussion genuinely looking for discussion.
Hmm.
Again, they want to hear their opinion coming out of your mouth. They don't really want to hear what you have to say.
Hmm.
And until people can look for that discussion, try and advance their perspective and understand a different way of thinking, how somebody else sees things or understands things, we're not really going to expand our own perspective. And therefore, we're going to stay in that same narrow focus. And, I did an interesting thing once where I was at a pulpit, I was teaching, and I says, okay, I want everybody who can be wrong, who's ever been wrong in your life, I want you to raise your hand. Everybody's hand went up. And I says, okay, how many of you can admit that you're wrong in the moment that the situation is happening? Few hands went up, but I would say 90% did not go back up. And it was kind of a powerful statement because we all know that we can be wrong, but nobody wants to admit they're wrong when it matters, when the emotions are high.
Hmm.
But the thing is, why does it matter? We can all be wrong. And if instead of going, I can't be wrong right now because I'm emotional, that's dumb. If I can say, you know what, let me understand your perspective and we'll see if I'm wrong then I'm actually learning. I'm growing. I accept the fact that I don't know everything. And if I understand what you're saying, maybe with the knowledge that I did have, the possibility is there that I could be wrong. And if I am wrong, I don't want to be wrong. But if you can teach me something more and now I know what to say to where I'm not wrong, now I still feel good about myself. And I've grown, which brings us joy. Does that make sense? Good. Well, hey, we are about out of time here. So I'm going to wrap up. Thank you so much, Landon. You have been a fantastic guest. I've really enjoyed this conversation. Is there anything you would like to add before I end, though? I should probably let you have a final say before I shut you off.
No, I've just been also really grateful to be on here. It's always a joy talking to you and just learned a lot about social media. It may have seemed like we've done a lot of negatives, but I do find a lot of good things of the connection, the sense of community, as long as we're teaching each other that, that's the purpose and we help each other. I think it's an awesome tool that everyone
I
should use.
agree.
And
And perhaps we did go a little heavy on the negative. And I think there's a lot more negatives, but I think the positives are very powerful positives.
very powerful.
And so we don't talk as much about the positives because there's fewer, but they're bigger.
Hmm.
But the negatives are kind of more plentiful. But really, what we need to do, I think, is create a balance. We
Hmm.
need to understand that good things can happen with social media, but we also need to set boundaries so we don't engage in those negative aspects. We need to limit the time we spend on there so we're not just doom scrolling and wasting our life. Sometimes, though, like this morning, I went out to breakfast with a friend and I was just waiting for him to show up because he was late. Sitting at the table, I'm like, okay, what do I do? And so I just kind of sat there and doom scrolled until he showed up. And it's a thing. I don't know that that was a great use of my life, but it managed to pass the time until he showed up. And
Yeah.
I don't know that that's necessarily a bad thing. I don't know that it's necessarily a good thing. I feel like I kind of engaged in a neutral activity at that point, but we need to set those boundaries so we don't get sucked in and lose life because of it. We don't need to prioritize social media over real people. We need
True.
to spend time in a room face to face with people. We need to go play basketball, to go do a show, go interact with real live, honest to goodness people and build those relationships and those connections. I think so many people say that dating is hard right now. Well, I think that's a big part of why people have lost the ability to socialize because they get lost in their electronics.
Yeah, I didn't go into online dating. I thought about it for a second, but I think we covered a lot of the aspects of the best foot forward and not the real tangible interaction that you get when you actually finally meet. But crossing that barrier, I think, is really hard because if you're not completely perfect online, then it's really hard to cross that step. But anyway, that's probably another topic for another day.
Yeah, probably true. Maybe we'll have you back for that discussion.
Oh no, just kidding.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Landon. I am very appreciative of you being here. Thank
Hmm.
you everybody for watching. Thank you for participating in another week of The Pirate Therapist. If you have gotten anything out of this episode, please subscribe. Please share it with your friends if you think they might get anything out of this. I want you all to have a fantastic week. Remember to be you. Remember that you are the only you there is, and don't change that. Don't try to be normal, which is just somebody else's definition of who you should be. You be you, because you're the only you there is. And that means you have something unique to offer to this world. And if you're pretending to be somebody else or trying to be what somebody else thinks you should be, you are not sharing the fullness of you with the world. And we all want to know what you are. We all want to know who you are. So share the good, share the nerdy. It's okay. Be you. So until next week, you have a fantastic week. We'll talk to you later. We'll talk to you later, Landon.
See ya.